Good afternoon. Welcome to the Brackus Computer Consulting monthly webinar series. As always, we will be recording this and we'll post it on our YouTube channel and our website probably next week with the holiday. So now, my name is Kelly Bergman and I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dana Halpin, Senior Solutions Consultant for VBCC and our go-to for all things fixed assets, really. Dana's an amazing resource and we knew this topic would be right up her alley. As always, if anybody has any questions during the webinar, there is a Q&A or a chat. Go ahead and enter your questions in there and we'll address them all at the end. With that, Dana, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kelly. So everybody, thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. Fixed assets has become increasingly popular over the past year, so we figured it was a good time to show you what it's all about. I'm going to turn off my video here and show you our agenda and get into the program. So we're going to be covering about 6 topics today: how to navigate and maintain the assets, doing reporting. If you're coming from a different system that you're managing your fixed assets in, we're going to show you how to import them into Sage Fixed Assets. It's super easy. There's a couple extra modules you could purchase to track assets, and there's a planning module as well. And then the link to other Sage products. So you can have depreciation expense posted to your Sage ERP program. And I'm going to demonstrate the one for Sage 100. And then lastly, if this program looks promising, we will help you decide which version is right for you. I'm going to show you the different versions and help you make that decision. So this is our Sage Fixed Asset program. I don't have any companies open right now, but I just want to show you the Assistance Center. So this program is amazing with the links and the help that they give you right off the bat. The Assistance Center has your Sage resources over here. Those are all your Sage websites, a knowledge base, and so forth. And then they have industry resources. These are links to government websites if you needed to look up tax laws and things like that, or some nonprofit questions that you might have. And then over in the middle are just common questions that people have when they're getting started. You know, how do I set up a company? How do I group assets? What report should I run? There's even a fixed asset 101 accounting section here for links to learn more about just the accounting process in general. The Assistance Center, and then there's System Admin in here. You know, you can have security with different users. You can assign them different preferences and profiles. You can manage the history, manage the data, and all that good stuff. So let me go into a company here. The program can handle several companies. They can either share a database or they can each have their own database. Now, mine all share the same database. As you see here, it's called Default. The reason to perhaps give each one its own database is if you have an astronomical amount of assets and you wanted to optimize speed and things like that, then you would perhaps consider assigning each company their own database. I'm going to come into this sample company here that I have, and this is what we call the asset snapshot. So this is optional. You don't have to have this pop up, but it's kind of nice because it does recap you on the count of your assets, the acquired value totals, and a nice graph in here when depreciation was last run, a lot of dates here for last period close and things like that. So let's close out of here. And if you're going to be implementing this product, you're going to have to set up your own company. So I wanted to go in and do that with you. The areas that you would need to fill in for your company when you're just starting out are, of course, the name, the tax ID, when you started. This is important because if your start date doesn't jive with your depreciation dates, you're going to notice that. Starting system number, this is user defined, so you can come up with a sequence on how you want to number your assets. They also have an asset ID field that is separate from this. So if you did have a pre-existing program that you're using now, or maybe it's just Excel, you can come up with your asset ID from that program, but still maintain a system number for Sage Fixed Assets. What you see on the bottom here are 7 books. This is a positive feedback from people of how they love having 7 books. The book depreciation is called the internal depreciation. And then you have all your tax schedules. You have state, AMT, ACE. I have 2 custom books in here, and I'm not using them for anything really, but you could use them for your needs for your company. I've seen people use custom for perhaps insurance purposes to keep a schedule separate for that, or maybe a project that they wanted to keep separate. You can tell the system that you do not want to do any depreciation on a book. So it's just really just to maintain a group of assets separately. So what I want to show you now is once you have the company set up, you can have the, oh, I think I'm in here 2 different times. So let's go into open company. And I'm going to go back into my USA company here. So the next area I want to show you, we've already seen that, is just a little bit on navigation. So the view is very pleasant to look at. I think it's simple and easy to navigate. There's only 2 views that you really have to be concerned about. One is what we call the asset view, which is a list of all my assets all in one shot. So I have all my assets here. The next one is if I were to click on an asset, this is called the detail view. And the detail view is just one asset, and we're going to go over everything in this menu in just a minute. But 2 views, asset and detail. Now, they also have, as Sage does, lots of hyperlinks on the left here. I have my tasks and my customize. These tasks will change depending on if you're in detail view or an asset list. So very easy to click on any type of shortcut in here, but once again, as Sage always does, they give you not only the shortcut, but you can also access those tasks from a drop-down menu. Now, the view also consists of up here, if I wanted to find a particular system number, I could type it in there and say go. We talked about how you can have an asset ID. The asset ID is your number that you're going to come up with, and you can change the Go search to asset number if you wanted to. So it can either search based on system or asset ID, which is very nice because a lot of times people have pre-existing systems and they have asset IDs that they've been working with for years and they don't want to change those. Now my view here has a ton of columns here, but if I wanted to limit those, I come over to the right and I click on my views and I could customize all those columns. All those columns are customized by using the customized asset list. I could remove columns, or I can come in and add columns and change the order of columns. So there's probably going to be a lot of fields in here that you really don't need, and it would simplify the view even more so. Up here in my view, I have what we call groups. Now, groups are amazing because you can take a list of 1,000 assets and group them into particular categories. Groups, when you are doing an implementation of fixed assets, really need to be thought out very carefully because they have a lot of power. They not only can filter the list, like I'm filtering on HQ here, which is my headquarters location, but whenever you run a report, like let's just pull up a quick net book value report, you always have the option as a parameter for what group do you want to run it on. So when you are considering your groups, you should consider how you want to run reports as well, how you want to categorize things. Not only reports does this show up on, but like in depreciation, when I'm coming in to do my depreciation for the month, it's going to ask you what group you want to depreciate, because potentially you can depreciate a group today, a group tomorrow. You don't have to depreciate all these assets at once. Let's go back and we'll bring up the whole list. Another thing I wanted to show you is the columns could be double clicked on to sort, which is very nice. You can navigate on the bottom here to each asset with these arrow keys. You can change the row height. You can enable totals for any column that has dollar values in them. The navigation in this particular way, it can be exported to Excel. So anything that you see here can be exported to Excel pretty easily, which is very nice. The help is amazing. You can come up here and click on all these help topics. I know I talked a little bit about that in the beginning, but there is a whole menu on here of all these different help areas. They have this new AI, Ally, she's called, that you could, with this version, I'm on version 2024.1, that you can enter a question here and she will answer it, which is kind of cool. Once I go into an asset, let's talk about that. So an asset, I'm in just a piece of furniture here, has the top, which is the general information, and the bottom, which is the book information. The general information are all the characteristic traits of the asset. We do give you 10 custom fields and 2 custom date fields, and it's super easy. I'm just going to click on this hyperlink here to customize a field. All you do is you come in and you can name the field whatever you'd like. You can give it an entry mask. You can say what the default is. You can give it a message, and then you can determine the order, meaning you can change in the general information field, I don't want it all the way down here. I want it to be the first one, for example. So I think class, I think I changed it to first, but let's change it to second. So the asset ID definitely should be first. So you can change the order of all these fields in here too. But custom fields not only are great to use, we have a whole set of them, 10 of them, but you have what you call a smart list manager, which gives your users a drop-down menu. So if I were to come into, let's say, class, might as well just use class, and look at all my different classes, you see how I have this nice drop-down menu? You can easily create smart lists for that. I can use it for my GL account numbers, and super easy to do. All you have to do is come in and say, create a smart list. And you can either key these values in, or they have a fill feature, which can be a little dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, but fill just goes out to all of your assets. And if there's a GL asset account out there, it'll take all the unique values and fill it in there for you for the list. But it does work quite nice if everything performs the way it should, which is just a note on that. So you can have test companies in this program, which I know is used quite a bit. So if you wanted to test out something like that, because you're not sure of how it's going to fill that list for you, you could do that in a test company before you do it in your live company. So Smart List Manager, great way to do drop downs, eliminate errors. Sometimes people use all caps, sometimes upper, lower. You can set all that in your Smart List. So under general information, you have a bunch of fields that you can use. If you do not use them, you can remove them from the grid here. We have different tabs in here. Transactions are, if you dispose of an asset, it will give you the history on that. We have notes if you had a particular note on the asset. We have images, and I'll show you one with images in a minute. And then the history, which is all of the activity on an asset and who did it and so forth and when. So that is the general information area. The bottom is your book information. So we talked about having 7 books, and here they are on this particular asset. If you see the first 5 fields here are in bold, that is because those are what we call 5 critical depreciation fields that are mandatory when you set up fixed assets, when you bring in an asset, I should say. So every asset needs property type, placed in service, acquisition, a depreciation method, and estimated life. Now, depreciation method, they give you all these depreciation methods. If you do not see one in here that you need, I would be very surprised. The depreciation methods are filtered based on the property types that you have. So it will be a shorter list if you choose like a property type of Z. But all of this is just pre-configured in the system, and I'm sure you can find what you are looking for. Every time you do a depreciation run, it's going to give you what the depreciation is for that month, what the accumulated depreciation is, what the net book value is. This particular asset had a 2,900 depreciation expense on January of 2025. So that information is available for each schedule, and you can see that on the asset detail view. Now, let's just say that I just entered this asset and I'm going to have plenty more just like it. You can save the information as a template. Now, over here I have apply template. So if I save this as a template, then the next time I add an asset, I can apply that template to it and it'll bring in all of those fields. So let's just pretend like I'm adding in an asset and I apply like a computer here. When you do that, it brings in fields. Now I don't have many going on here, but I think you get the idea. It brings in the GL account numbers, which is nice. It brings in the class, and then you could fill in the rest of the information. It saves on errors, because if you didn't have the correct GL account numbers in here, your depreciation expense on your ERP system will fail. So if somebody typed in an account number wrong, then your ERP system would have a fail on that. I see a question from Ben. My depreciation network doesn't have certain features like apply templates that you're talking about now. So Ben, I know you're on the premium version. So when we get to the end of this webinar, I have a document I'm going to show everybody about the versions and what you cannot do. I'm wondering if that's a feature that is particular to your version. I can't imagine it is, because templates are pretty common but we will check that out. So thank you for your question. And no, it's not because you have an older version. I think that templates were around for a while. Okay, so thank you for your question. And the, let's see, I was talking about templates. Now, templates are very important when you do have a link to your ERP system, because if you create an AP invoice or a purchase order with an asset on there, you have to use one of these templates to be able to get it to come into Sage Fixed Assets. I'm going to demonstrate all that for you in just a bit. The other area I wanted to show you is really, I guess let's move on to how do we even do depreciation. We're just going to quickly run depreciation for January of 25, so you could just see how easy it is. Let me get into my asset list here. I don't need to save that. Up here, I have depreciation. I'm going to go to depreciate, and I'm going to say, okay. Now, once again, we have our groups. You can select particular group. I'm just going to select all my active assets and do them all at once. What am I depreciating? I'm going to do my book internal, and then you have to give it the month and the year that you're depreciating. This period should coincide with your Sage ERP system, whether it be Intact or Sage 100 or 300. That should all coincide with the ERP system if you want the entry to come over in that period. Now, they do have reports that will spit out when you calculate depreciation. You can have it physically printed or previewed, and they have a few different versions of the report. I'm just going to choose depreciation expense so you could just see what it looks like. So here's an example of a typical depreciation expense report. Depreciation this run, that is my depreciation expense for January of 2025. Now mine is a little hefty here because my assets, I think I've depreciated these assets over and over again over the years, but normally I don't think a normal company, a smaller company would have this amount of depreciation expense, but I just wanted to show you to get the drift here. Now, what's nice about these reports is at the bottom here, it's going to tell you the group that you chose, the criteria for that group, and how it's sorted. Because a lot of times when you save these reports off, you're not, it's not very clear sometimes. Oh, I see I have active assets, but really what is in that group? So perhaps I did have that HQ group. It would tell me that location is equal to HQ in here. So if you had turnover and the controller is new and didn't know those types of things, then, that is nice that it has that on the back end of the report. So after I close this, my depreciation is done. If it wasn't right, you can certainly make your changes in the assets and rerun it again. You can reset depreciation, you can force recalculation, any types of scenario like that. You do need to be very careful about how you go about that. There are very specific instructions if you did have to do a reset or a recalc. So I would recommend that you work with us or you work with the Sage hyperlinks in there for help to make sure you're doing it the right way. But that's really it. So you have depreciated all of your assets. I'm going to show you in a little bit how that link works between your Sage, in my case, Sage 100 and Sage fixed assets. So you can see that. Now, if you are new to Sage fixed assets and you want to know how to get your assets from like Excel or another program into this program, we can do importing for you. So under the file, company utilities, we have a custom import, and this is so easy to use. I'm just going to run through a quick, simple one for you. You can come in here and use the custom import helper. Once I click next, it'll ask me where's my import file, and I'm just going to choose this GL1 because I did import GL account numbers the other day in here, and I'm going to click next. It'll ask me what company. I'm going to choose my US company. Gives me a warning. It's going to ask me what my database is. And then am I importing new assets? This will allow you to import that general information and the book information, or you can update assets, or you can dispose of assets. So this one that I'm doing, I'm just importing just GL account numbers. So I'm going to choose update asset. Now you have to have a mapping. So I already have a mapping saved for GL account numbers, and I'm just going to choose this. Now this is super simple. Mine, I'm sure yours would be more complex, but this is the mapping fields. So I have only two, it'll preview your Excel worksheet in here. File can be a CSV or an Excel worksheet, and you just map it. So my system numbers in column A, my expense numbers in column B, and so on and so forth. But you have all these fields to choose from to update an asset and import into. Say that you've been using the system for a while, but all of a sudden you're going to start using custom field number 7. Well, you can import all that information in pretty easily for all your assets. Get it into Excel and then import it in here. Now, once I click next, I can validate. That's like a test, and it will validate my records. I forgot to close my company out first, but it'll give me a listing of any failed records, and I can go in and fix those and then do the import for real. So very easy to import the list to update, or if you're starting off brand new from another program. So now I want to show you, not only do we have the Sage Fixed Asset Program, but we do have for purchase the planning and the tracking modules. The planning and tracking modules are installed with the installation, but if you don't have the license keys, after 30 days, you're not going to be able to access them. So let's start with planning. Planning is a way to keep your construction in progress projects in one spot, keep track of the spending, look at how it compares to your budgets and all that good stuff. So for my planning, I have the ability to perhaps manage. You can do unlimited amount of projects in here. You can manage them. You could summarize expenses at multiple levels. You can control the spending, because you can see the actual versus the budget. And it will keep track of all of your expenditures. So it gives you this nice little snapshot here when you come in. And then when I come into the project, you'll see all these line numbers in here. These line numbers will eventually be Sage fixed assets. So once I am done with my project, I can move the building expansion, for example, over into my Sage fixed asset program. So I'm going to double click on building expansion, and you're going to see that this is my line information is giving me what the budget is, who's responsible for, who the contractor is, um, my general ledger construction in progress number, when the start date is, when the end date is, and all that good stuff. Also, transactions you can enter in here. These are all like my AP invoices and the amounts, and those would eventually be added up to be the acquired value for the asset. And then here's my asset information, and I can say when it's going to be placed in service, if there's a template involved, and all that good stuff. So that is our planning module, and you can create custom reports in there. And it does create the assets automatically in your fixed asset program, which is a super great feature. The next module for purchase is what we call tracking. Now, tracking is a way for you to track your assets, check them in, check them out, do inventory reconciliations, and it has the ability to use barcoding and scanners. So we do have, there's very specific system requirements for the barcoding and scanning piece that we can work with you on. But as you see, my asset list is the same as it was in Sage Fixed Assets, so the two are integrated somewhat. The nice feature here is if you did want to do an inventory, you could come in here and go through these 3 steps. Now, if you did not have readers set up, they do have what we call virtual readers that you can use. You go out there, you conduct your inventory, you bring it back in, and you reconcile. So you can conduct the inventory locally or at remote sites. You do have customizable fields like you do with the Sage Fixed Asset program. This one actually gives you more tracking customizable fields, and it does keep track of all the history on the assets as well. So that is available for purchase if you are interested in that program. I'm going to go back to depreciation. And we're going to talk about that link to the ERP system. So I'm coming in, I'm opening up my company. Oh, I forgot to show everybody the images. So you can link images to your assets, and there's an image tab here. The asset I showed you earlier didn't have any pictures, but this one has patents, for example, on the image, and those are kept, like I said, on your network somewhere. The image, oh, that's not what I want, this one. The image manager allows you just to drag and drop your images in there and link them up, which is a nice feature. Now, the Sage fixed asset link is available with all of these other programs. The Sage 100 link is what I'm going to show you. In order for this to work, you have to have your GL account numbers in here, like I mentioned, they have to be valid. You have to have run depreciation, the periods have to match, and then you're ready to go. So the Sage 100 program is my ERP, and on my modules list, I have a fixed asset module. Now, sometimes when we get a new Sage 100 customer, they think that they have purchased fixed assets because they see the module on here. But that, unfortunately, is not the case. The module is just a way to link to the Sage Fixed Asset program. And Sage Fixed Assets has to be purchased in order to link it to Sage 100. It's real easy to set up. The fixed asset options in here will ask you what company in Sage Fixed Assets are you linking to, what the database is. And then here's where I set my period and my year. Here's where I link the book. Remember, I have 7 books. What is going to be the posting book for Sage 100? It's going to be my internal book. And then here's my templates. So I can integrate with AP and purchase order with my templates. And that would be an easy way for users to purchase something and have that asset come over into Sage Fixed Assets from Sage 100. The checkboxes are here, and it's optional, but it's a great feature. You might as well turn it on. The require templates can be turned on. That would force users who are purchasing an asset to be forced to use a template, and that would save on errors and things like that. So let's cancel it here. Another area you would have to fill out is the asset account maintenance. Every combination that you could possibly have in Sage Fixed Asset, as far as the GL asset account, depreciation expense, and accumulated depreciation accounts have to be put in here. So if there's something that is not in this list and you're expecting to use a new asset account, it's going to fail the depreciation posting. So make sure that you have all your GL account numbers in here and they match what's in Sage Fixed Assets. They have this nice refresh asset template button because if you do add new templates in Sage Fixed Assets, you will need to refresh them to be in Sage 100. So let's talk about adding an asset, and then I'll go through the depreciation posting. I'm going to go into the AP module. I'm going to enter an invoice. And I'm just going to use any old vendor here. Let's do this computer guy. Give it an invoice number. And we're going to say it's $1,000. Come over here. You're going to see that I have this drop down here from asset template. So these are all those templates that you saw in Sage Fixed Assets. If I click the computer one, I'm going to click accept. And let's update this real quick. It's my one for $1,000 and print. I have associated documents turned on, so that's why that came up. For paperless office, if you're familiar with Sage 100, paperless office is a great feature to have. Now, it did give me you can't see it, I gotta drag it over. It gave me this journal here. It's my fixed asset import status report, and it'll tell me, hey, you added an asset, and this is the amount, number of assets, and it will put this in the activity log. If for some reason you had to double check on why assets were added, you could find out who and when and why that happened. So now if I come into Sage Fixed Assets, right, and I go into my asset list, just refresh that. I have at the bottom here my computer. And I go to the main for $1,000. Now, we get a lot of questions about this, and I'm sorry to say the invoice number and the vendor number do not come over from Sage 100. And I am waiting for the day for that to happen because that would be just a quite a bit of time saving and a great audit trail to have that come in there. But it does create the asset, and then you would come in here and set your depreciation schedules and all that good stuff. So back to Sage 100. We have demonstrated adding an asset from AP. You can also do that from purchase order receipt of invoice. That is available as well. You can pick those templates. Now let's demonstrate how to post the January 2025 depreciation journal entry. So you come in here and it is under the period end processing menu. A lot of people get, I don't know, timid about that. They're like, oh, I'm not ready to do period end processing. But you can do this really anytime during the month. It's not going to affect other modules. You can post the journal entry. It closes the fixed asset module for the period. In this case, it'll cycle it forward to period 2, year 2025. But you can do that anytime during the month if you wanted to. The period end processing menu comes up. It knows that I want to do my internal book, and it knows that I want to do January of 2025. When I hit proceed, you're going to get a fixed asset journal. Now, we don't have any associated docs. The fixed asset journal will give you an error if there's an account that doesn't have the proper GL account that matches. So I wanted to have one error out for you so you could see that that is the case. So I have asset number 107 in here that is erroring out. And let's just go into here, see if we can find it. And that's this office chair. So I don't have Sage 100 account numbers in here, but let's just change them and get that fixed. Accumulated depreciation and depreciation expense. I'm going to save this and then I'm going to try it again. So that is an example of an error that could happen and if your setups are not right. Oh, I completely forgot to show you that I have to run depreciation again. So I'm coming back, made my changes, and I'm going to do active assets, internal, 01/2025. Say okay. Don't need to view that. Now we're going to come back. We're going to try this again. Period end processing. Proceed. Looks like it's working, no errors. Now the daily transaction register is going to give you a journal entry with a summation of all of the if assets added together. It'll be a summary journal entry. And I'll show you here. Source journal is always going to be FL, and you do have your, as usual, register number, journal or register number. So this is my journal entry for my assets, and I had this posted in detail. So if you wanted it in summary, you would have to take that option off in fixed asset options. So this is a lot of lines, but it does give you each asset number, 88, 90, 91. It does give you a description of what the asset is. Some people might like that, or it may be a little bit much and you want that summarized. So that is the way that the link works with an ERP system. You have the ability, I'm going to pull over a document here to show you all the different integrations. Now, I do know that for the most recent version of Sage Fixed Assets, which is 2024.1, they did have a new feature where the purchasing module in Sage Intacct can be integrated now. So that is a new feature I just wanted to mention if you are an Intacct user. But here's our integration chart. So we have all these ERP systems, and it tells you, depending on the version that you have, we have Light, Standard, Network, and Premier. These are the standard, or I'm sorry, Light is like a standalone version. It's on your workstation. It's not on a network. It's one user. Standard is available to be more customizable as far as having more features than Light. Network is a network version on your the program is installed on a server, and then you have client setups as well. Premiere is the SQL version, and we're going to talk about the features that come with each, and that helps you determine what version that you need. But the purpose of this document here is just to show you all the different integrations that you can have. So here's my advanced, premium, and standard. For Sage 100, I have 300, I have Intacct, I have Intacct APPO. Now these numbers here are documented down here. So I was on Sage 100 and I have the network version, which is these two columns here. So if I were to look at Sage 100, I can do mine standard. So I can do 2 and 2A. But if I were to go into, well, mine's a US company, so just Sage 100 standard, I can do 2 right here. So what does 2 mean? It integrates directly between that and the accounting program. If you had 2A, 2B, these are the differences as well. So if you have one of those ERP programs and you're wondering if it integrates, we can send you and go over this document with you to make sure that you understand the link and what you're getting. Most of them are twos. I think that's 300 is mostly ones, but we will determine that with you when you're ready. The versions are here. So if you are interested in the program, we do have the Light, Standard, and Premier that we talked about a little bit. So depending on your number of assets is which version you would choose. Now, this is a very small, you can only have 1,000. This is up to 50. And the Premier is SQL version, which is 10,000 or more. And then their number of named users, it goes in odds for some reason. I don't know why, but they have 1, 3, 5, and then so on and so forth. And then you could have, you have to have more than one for Premier to be used for the SQL version. The databases are the same, except this one is Microsoft SQL Server. Now, this is what I was talking about, that one user had a question about they couldn't see the templates. So these are all the features that come with the different versions. You'll see that that light version doesn't really have a lot of these features. The network and the premium one has quite a bit. So for your question, Ben, I don't think it's a matter of the version that you have. I'd have to probably connect to you to look at why you don't get templates, and I'm happy to do so. We could schedule something. But here's a nice recap of all the features. If perhaps you do have quite a few assets, you know, you would go with the SQL version. But I do want to say that the SQL version is the only one that can handle the 52, 53 week. The other versions do not. So we have all the compliances and we have the reporting. Now, as far as reporting goes, there are a specific reporting that you can purchase the reporting module to be in addition. Those standard reports I think work great, but if you needed to do formulas, graphs, and things like that, you'd probably be a candidate for the reporting module, and we can give you a price on that as well. So 3 different versions, light, standard, or premier. Most of our customers do have the standard, and but we can always revisit that with you individually to see what the best version is for you. So we have about 15 minutes left. I don't know if anybody would have any questions at this point, but we can discuss any questions at this time.
If you would like to contact Dana directly or anybody on the team, feel free to reach out. Hopefully you have all our information, and here's Dana's. Thank you, Dana, so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to all that attended. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of it with us. And until next month, thanks again for attending.